Writing at Level 6, Tips and Tricks to Succeeding. My name is Steph Bennett. I'm a Learning Development Tutor in the Hub. Today's aims: to develop knowledge and understanding of academic writing at Level 6 in support of upcoming assignments. We will look at expectations at Level 6, criticality, reading, proofreading and editing. Expectations at Level 6. At Level 6, your tutors expect you to draw on all of the skills that you've previously learnt. This includes the development of themes and arguments. For example, what does the information suggest and why is it significant? It includes your understanding of issues that are prevalent within your field. It includes the selection and analysis of sources you're reading. And finally, the quality of communication. Spelling, punctuation, grammar and APA referencing. Think about scale. Can you maintain criticality from paragraph to paragraph throughout the entire piece of writing? Can you maintain depth? How far can you push those ideas? And finally, criticality. Can you use your analysis to develop new ideas? Reading. Let's get thinking, because we're online. How can you ensure you are critically selecting suitable sources? And what questions can you ask of your texts to ensure you're reading critically? If you'd like to, pause the video, head back to Writing at Level 5 because there might be a few clues in there. Take 4 minutes, jot down your ideas. Locating suitable literature. You can begin by using the advanced search on the WorldCat catalogue. Let's take a look at that now. Here is the advanced search. Now let's change these to keywords. And then these will become our Boolean search operators. Here are our results. Then you can narrow them down. If you'd like to, you can just look at articles. You can check peer-reviewed only. You can change the publication date. And you can select which journal you'd like to look at specifically. You can use Boolean searches on Google Scholar. To do this, you place your phrase in double quote marks, separate those keywords by and or, and then you can narrow down your search results. Let's take a look at that now. Here is Google Scholar, and here is a Boolean search I made earlier. Here we go. Here are your results. Now let's narrow them down. Now we're only looking at literature from the last 5 years. If you have downloaded LibKey Nomad, you will see the little teardrop pop up in the corner. Click on that, and this will give you free access to the PDF journal. It helps you get behind the paywall. And finally, you can book in with Sean in the library to help you locate further literature. Then you need to narrow down your sources in a critical manner, and we can do this by using the CRAAP test. This is like a source evaluation tool. Is the information current? Does it tie in with the period that you're looking at or the period you need to scope? Is the information relevant for your needs? You might be able to determine that by reading the title. You might have to dip in and do a bit of skim reading, maybe look at an abstract, look at an introduction or a conclusion. Authority. Who is the author and what is their experience in the field? Do they have other publications that are quite reputable? Does this solidify your choice for reading this piece? Accuracy. How accurate is the information? What evidence is the author drawing on to back up what they're trying to say? Do other sources corroborate it? And finally, purpose. For what reason does this information exist? Is it to entertain? Is it to inform? Is it to persuade? Is there any bias in there? When you look at books, scan the contents, scan the index, look for keywords and phrases. That will help you to narrow down the chapters that you feel are most relevant for your needs. For journals, as I've mentioned, scan the abstracts and conclusions. Ensure your sources are peer-reviewed. You might even want to look at how many times they have been cited. That might strengthen your use of the text. Then you can skim read your chapters, you can skim read your articles and get a bit of a feel for them. Get a bit of a feel for what they're trying to say, what they're trying to argue. Then you can decide whether this source is suitable for close reading, because it's the close reading that will help you to formulate your arguments to put into your assignments. To expand your searches further, who do your authors cite? Locate these original sources. This is called reference mining. And also, do your authors have other publications? Why not take a look at those? And in terms of Boolean searching, here is an example Boolean search. You can see synonyms separated by the word or, and different phrases separated by the word and. Your Boolean search does not have to be this long, by no means. Your Boolean search does not need to be this long, by no means. You just need to return suitable results. It also means that if you can't narrow down your results to less than 200, it doesn't matter as long as the results returned are suitable for your needs. Critical reading. Now you've got your sources, you might want to predict what you're going to find. What does the abstract or conclusion actually tell you? When you do a little bit of closer reading, what is the author's overall argument or point? What questions do you actually need answering by this text? By this point, you might have a little bit of a draft assignment and you know exactly what you need to use this source for. How does the text deepen your understanding? What are the strengths and limitations of the text? For example, if it is a study, is the research design reliable? Are the findings valid? Are the findings generalizable? Think about the date. Does that make the findings applicable in the present day? These are all things to have a think about. Criticality can tie in with theories or aspects of studies. You might want to take a look at bias in some way. Is the bias implicit or explicit? How can you use this information moving forward? Now let's look at how you might want to document your findings. Why not try the Tom Chatfield critical reading table? You need to write out the full reference at the top. You can then stick that in your reference list at the end. You need to look at the topic being addressed and what the author's overall argument is about that topic. What reasoning have they used to come to that argument about the topic? What evidence are they backing themselves up with? How convincing is this argument? Do you have any follow-up questions at the end? And are there any quotes that you might want to use in your work? And as we're working at level 6, you might want to paraphrase these quotes rather than direct quote. Paragraph structure and style. Peel the layers. I don't think I need to go through peel again because I think we know by now what peel is. However, think about them as the reader's journey. You're taking them through a narrative from start to finish. You can be flexible with the word count. I usually use around 200 words per paragraph. As long as it's not just one long, continuous piece of writing, you should be okay. Think about paraphrasing. I've just mentioned that we're working at level 6, so we're more likely to be paraphrasing now. And think about synthesis, bringing together multiple sources that agree with one another on a particular topic. Paraphrasing helps you to demonstrate your knowledge of the context and understanding of the topic. You can change words. If you are presented with the word students, you might want to use the word learners. You might want to change word forms. If you have the word success, you might want to change it to successful. And from that, you'll start to see the sentence structure change around it. And that is where we get into the nitty-gritty of paraphrasing. And here's a really great guide to show you how to do it, with examples of what to do and what not to do. Here is Scribner's Guide to Paraphrasing. You can either watch the video if you would like to, or you can take a look at the step-by-step guide with the original source example a not so great paraphrase, and then a better one just underneath it for some tips and tricks on how to do it yourself. And here is an example of how to synthesize and equally how to paraphrase. You can see the synthesis in the green. Castagno and McKinley, Harberman et al. And McConnell et al. They all believe that if you create caring relationships with pupils, you create a safe environment, and that is likely to help learning. So to synthesize, draw together your sources. Who thinks similarly, and why do they think that way? Then write it in your own words and ensure you still credit the original authors. You can head to the Academic Integrity Guide for this and just type in synthesis, it will pop up. You can also see in this example that no direct quotes have been used, but the message is still made clearly and explicitly. This is more along the lines of what you are heading towards at level 6. So use this as inspiration. You can see there's hedging language in here. In practice, this notion could be applied, can therefore be argued. We've got signposting language. This highlights that. There is considerable debate. This is supported by. So those phrases that kind of help the sentences blend into one another. We've already mentioned the paraphrasing. This particular paragraph has a nice little triangle of literature. It draws on studies, it draws on theories, and it draws on policy and political guidance as well. So it's really bolstering the point it's trying to make. And you can also see there is a peel structure with a topic sentence. If you'd like more information on topic sentences, head to Scribr and type topic sentence in the search bar. Structure and style. We know now that lacking coherence hampers readability for the assessor. It also dampens those points that you're trying to make. It makes it harder for us to understand what you're trying to say. Cohesion. You need to be looking at how your sentences flow from one to the next. How your paragraphs flow from one to the next. That might be a mix of understanding what points you're going to make in each paragraph and ensuring that they are ordered logically. And equally, it might mean taking a look at your syntax, reading your sentences out loud and making sure that they flow. And it's also about unity, getting to the point and sticking to the point, not going off on a tangent. Think about your word choice. Are your words formal? Are they academic? Are they related to your specialism? Think about your sentence structure. Think about your sentence starters. Thus, therefore, hence, accordingly, consequently, as a result. All of these phrases help your sentences to flow nicely into one another. And think about your paragraph structure, where you end with one link sentence. Does it flow neatly into the next point you're trying to make? Almost like you're telling an academic story. You need to select the best words to get your meaning across. You need to arrange your sentences accurately and effectively. And you need to present your ideas in a clear and logical way. You can always check these things over as well with your tutor to gauge their expectations and any areas for improvement. Let's take a look then at sentence structure. Have a read of these two. Which is the strongest in terms of sentence structure and readability, and why? Pause the video. Did you get it right? Yes, it is the second one, and here's why. It sort of emulates a little peel structure, an ever so small peel structure, but it's there all the same. It features signposting language as a result, ultimately, to help our sentences flow. And there is an effective use of punctuation here in the form of full stops and commas where necessary, in comparison to the first, which is one long sentence. So in terms of sentence structure, when you are writing on Microsoft Word, if your sentence hits 3 lines or over, you need to dip back in and either streamline the phrasing or separate using punctuation. Maybe break it into 2 sentences or more. Another thing that hampers readability: stop trying to sound academic or the idea of what you think is academic. We just need you to be clear, not overly complicated. So let's look at some examples of when people didn't listen to this advice. I consider myself to be a vessel fabricated specifically for the purpose of accommodating heated infusions. Although in terms of my exterior facade I could be described as undersized in a vertical sense and positively portly in terms of stature. I'm not going to read the rest of that, but you can. Do you know what this is? Yes, it's I'm a Little Teapot. How about this? For this moment epitomises an unparalleled realm of spine-chilling suspense, a nocturnal epoch of profound terror. No entity or force shall come to aid you as the formidable and menacing predator prepares to pounce. Did you get it right? Yes, it is Thriller by Michael Jackson. That's not what we're looking for. Make it clear. Criticality. From what to so what. Now you're working at level 6, you need to demonstrate criticality throughout your work in terms of your analysis, your structure and your style. At levels 4 and 5, we explained concepts and explored them further. We demonstrated understanding of theory and applied that theory. And now we need to evaluate the impact of the idea or concept and develop arguments based on that theory and that evidence. We need to be questioning what, how, why, when, where, so what does that mean? We need to be looking at, well, what's the significance of this information that's being presented to me? We need to break down bigger topics into smaller subparts so that we can understand each of those components in depth. We need to be looking at how the information is relevant, whether it's relevant to the present day or relevant for the time, or both, or neither. We need to be looking at people that support an idea, people that challenge an idea, and then we weigh up both sides of that argument to come to a conclusion. If we're going on a placement or doing some kind of professional practice, we need to be thinking in domino effect. What are we implementing, how and why, backing it up with the literature, looking at the strengths of the approach using literature, looking at the limitations and how to mitigate them, again, backing up with literature, and what is the desired or potential outcome, potentially supported by literature as well. Here are some additional ideas to help you be critical. Does theory align with or deviate from practice, as in what people are finding in studies? Does theory align with or deviate from political guidance or policy? Does practice, as in study findings, align with or deviate from political guidance or policy? And if you do a placement, how do your experiences align with or deviate from theory, political guidance and policy, and practice, study findings? If you're more humanities-based, you might want to have a think about interpretations of events, theories, frameworks. Why do interpretations vary? To what extent is the original idea true, and how has it been understood or represented? You might want to consider viewing certain events and texts and artifacts through the lens of a specific theory to generate new insights. What does this theory illuminate and what does it miss? You might want to consider thinking contextually about artifacts. Cultural products are situated historically, philosophically, socially, culturally. So how does it engage with its time and place? What tensions does it reflect or resist? And what ideologies does it reflect or resist? Let's get thinking again. You'll see 2 sets of paragraphs. Which is more critical? Which has a better structure? Which is more academic? Which essentially would you award higher points? And why? Pause the video on each of the slides. Take 5 minutes for this task. Example 1. Pause the video. Example 2. Pause the video. Did you get it right? It is sample B. We can see the point, evidence, explanation and link very clearly there in the different colours. We can see that the writer has synthesised sources together. We can see that they haven't used direct quotes but that they've paraphrased instead. We can see that they've drawn on theories and that they've also drawn on international policy and also national guidance. We can see that they have used hedging language. This suggests that. We can see that they've used signposting language as a result, in particular. So we're heading more towards this example at level 6. And let's look at a second example. Pause the video. And its counterpart, pause the video. Did you get it right? Here we have a point with a topic sentence, followed by the evidence in green, followed by a bit of criticality in there, the explanation, and tied up neatly at the end with a link sentence. You can see there is synthesis used in here in terms of Action for Children and Education Endowment Foundation. Signposting language has been used, such as additionally and overall and according to. The orange shows the criticality, where we're looking at what is suggested and why it's significant. You can see the phrase there, could be argued. You can also see there are no direct quotes, everything has been paraphrased. And there is hedging language. We've got phrases like, there is strong evidence, rather than a definitive answer. We've said could be argued, rather than it is. So again, this is what we're aiming towards at level 6. Academic Phrasebank is your one-stop shop for sentence starters and in particular critical language. Let's have a look at their Being Critical section. Here is Academic Phrasebank. Let's head to Being Critical. And here you can see a breakdown of all their sentence starters for criticality. However, Smith fails to fully define what, Jones fails to acknowledge the significance of, the author overlooks the fact that X contributes to Y. As you are level 6, you might also find this helpful. At the very top, you can see it breaks each of the sentence starters down into the chapters of an empirical dissertation. So, for example, if you are writing a lit review at some point this year, head to Referring to Sources, and here are all your lit review sentence starters. If you're writing a methodology this year, head to Describing Methods, and here are all your sentence starters. Proofreading and editing. Here are our proofreading and editing checklists. Please head to the Learning Development Blackboard to download a copy of these. They will be no end of benefit when it comes to your assignments this year, but also your dissertation, because that tends to be a chunkier piece of work. So you might want to proofread and edit in stages, reading a chapter at a time and making those corrections. You can also, alongside the proofreading and editing, remove the unnecessary use of the word that. And also, don't forget to check for comma splices. Moving forward then, my email is on the screen. You can get in touch with me with any questions or suggestions. Don't forget to head to the Learning Development Blackboard course, specifically the section called Dissertations, the step-by-step guides to writing each of your chapters. Head to Scribner's knowledge base and in particular theses and dissertations, again step-by-step guides to writing each of your chapters. And the same for Grad Coach, Dissertation 101, you sign up and then you get access to free chapter guides. You can still book one-to-one appointments with Learning Development, Digital Learning and the Library. Please remember for Learning Development, 4 per semester. So 4 between September and the end of January and 4 from the start of February to the end of June. We also run a drop-in service, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 5 p.m, 15-minute slots each, so you can bring with you maybe a peel paragraph at a time to go through. They are for quick queries only, and they're unlimited as well. So the sign-up sheet is in the hub. On Wednesdays, we run a bunch of workshops called Destination Dissertation, and they are your guides to writing chapters within the dissertation. We've already gone through Academic Phrasebank, and finally, the Academic Integrity Guide is your one-stop shop for citing and referencing in APA. Thanks for joining me today.